Before the sun broke over the eastern ridge, Calder Rowan was already riding. Men like him moved early, not from habit, but from ownership. When you held more land than you could cross in a single day, daylight became a resource, not a luxury. Frost clung to the low sage and brittle grass, turning the valley into a pale silver sheet. His black gelding breathed slow clouds into the cold morning air, each exhale steady, controlled. Calder noticed details most men overlooked. Broken earth. Bent grass. Tracks that didn't belong. He wasn't a man given to drifting thoughts. His life followed ledgers and lines, water rights, timber limits, grazing schedules. Rowan Ranch hadn't grown strong by chance. People in town called him fortunate. The men who worked for him knew better. This ride was routine. After the first hard freeze every year, Calder checked the far edges of his property. Washouts. Fences. Signs of trespass. A ranch didn't survive on good intentions. It survived on watchfulness. As he guided his horse along the ridge overlooking Pine Hollow Draw, the sky burned pale blue with winter sharpness. The land below rolled quiet and empty, waiting for spring. He slowed when he reached the old log shack. Most folks didn't know it existed. Hidden behind juniper and stone, the cabin had been built long ago by someone who never stayed. Time had nearly claimed it, roof sagging, porch split, door barely holding. Calder had planned to tear it down. But something stopped him. Smoke. A thin, steady line rising straight from the chimney. Not careless smoke. Not desperate fire. This was the kind made by someone who knew how to keep warm. Calder narrowed his eyes. Someone was living there. Calder slowed his horse as he neared the cabin, careful not to let the sound of hooves echo across the frozen ground. Frost cracked softly beneath his boots when he dismounted, his eyes scanning the place with quiet focus. Firewood was stacked neatly beside the door. The logs were cleanly cut. A broken window had been patched to keep the cold out. Even the latch looked newly shaped by hand. Someone was living here by choice, not accident. Calder stepped up to the door and raised his hand to knock. Before he could, the door opened. A woman stood there holding a lantern and a piece of firewood. She didn't flinch or step back. Her expression was calm, steady. "Morning," she said. "I didn't expect to find anyone out here," Calder replied. "I imagine you didn't." Her voice held no fear. Calder studied her carefully. "This land belongs to the Rowan Ranch," he said. "I need to know who's on it." She nodded. "My name is Eliza Moore. I'm not here to cause trouble." After a moment, she stepped aside. "You should come in. It's too cold to talk outside." The cabin inside was simple but clean. Everything had its place. "You fixed this place up," Calder said. "I did what was necessary," Eliza replied. He paused. "You know this is private land." "I do." Silence followed. She didn't plead. She didn't explain. She simply waited. Calder leaned against the doorframe, studying Eliza with quiet attention. "How long do you plan to stay?" he asked. "Long enough to stand on my own again," she replied. There was no weakness in her voice. Only certainty. "And why here?" She paused. "I needed a place no one would think to look." Calder nodded. He understood that kind of choice. "I'll think on it," he said. "That's fair." That night, Calder slept little. By morning, his decision was made. When he returned, Eliza was outside splitting wood, her movements steady and practiced. "I've come to an agreement," Calder said. He laid out the terms plainly. Winter work on the ranch. Fence lines. Water checks. Shelter in return. Eliza read the paper carefully. "One condition," she said. "It ends after winter." No obligation on either side. Calder considered, then nodded. They signed. Nothing more was said. But something had shifted. Calder Thorne didn't act on impulse. What he heard in Ash Hollow stayed with him, settling into place like a piece of a larger picture he hadn't seen before. Names, patterns, stories that sounded too similar to be coincidence. By the time night fell, his mind was already working through possibilities. Before dawn the next morning, Calder saddled his horse and rode toward the county records office. The streets were quiet, snow resting lightly on rooftops and hitching posts. Inside the office, the air smelled of old paper and ink. Calder requested property transfers near Blue Ridge from the past 2 years. The clerk hesitated only a moment before bringing out the ledgers. Calder went through them slowly, page by page, until he found what he was looking for. There it was. A forfeiture deed filed under Eliza Moore's name. The signature didn't match the hand he'd seen on her contract. The timing didn't align with the dates she described. Everything about it felt wrong to a man who lived by precision. The deed was forged. Calder closed the ledger carefully and thanked the clerk. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't show anger. Decisions like this didn't need emotion. By midday, he found Graves near the livery stable, speaking easily with a pair of riders. Graves smiled when he saw Calder, the kind of smile meant to disarm. Calder didn't return it. "You filed a false deed under Eliza Moore's name," Calder said plainly. Graves tried to deflect, tried to explain, tried to turn paperwork into confusion. Calder stepped closer, his voice calm and certain. "You're going to void that filing today," he said. "And you're going to correct the record yourself." Graves hesitated, weighing his options. Calder didn't threaten him. He didn't need to. Influence carried more weight than force ever could. By afternoon, the correction was officially filed. The fraudulent claim was erased from record. Graves was instructed to leave the county and never return. By law, Eliza Moore's land was restored. Calder Thorne didn't consider the matter finished just because the deed had been corrected. Men like Graves didn't simply disappear without trying to salvage something for themselves. Calder preferred certainty over assumption. Over the next 2 days, he reviewed every related filing connected to Eliza's land. He checked boundary records, tax payments, and older transfers that predated her husband's death. Nothing had been missed. Everything confirmed what he already knew. The land had always been hers. Graves, on the other hand, had left behind a trail of similar filings across nearby counties. Disputed claims. Quiet settlements. People who lacked the money or standing to challenge paperwork that looked official enough to pass. Calder made sure the recorder documented every correction clearly. No loose ends. No room for future confusion. When he was finished, the matter was sealed tighter than any fence line on his ranch. By the end of the week, word spread that Graves had left the region altogether. No farewell. No explanations. Just absence. That suited Calder fine. When he rode back toward the cabin, the land felt settled again. Balanced. Order restored where disorder had tried to take hold. Eliza didn't ask questions when he told her the truth. She listened quietly, absorbing the information the same way she handled everything else. "So it's finished?" she asked. "Yes," Calder replied. "By law, the land is fully yours again." She nodded once. Not with celebration, but with relief grounded in reality. For the first time in a long while, something had been taken back instead of lost. 3 days later, the sound of wagon wheels carried across the draw. Eliza stepped outside her cabin and stopped short when she saw Calder approaching with a freight wagon pulled by 2 strong bay horses. The wagon was stacked high, canvas stretched tight over its load. Calder brought the team to a halt and set the brake before climbing down. "I brought supplies," he said. He pulled back the canvas, revealing fresh-cut lumber, tools, hardware, and everything needed to build something meant to last. A new cabin, Calder said. Built right this time. Eliza studied the materials carefully. She didn't touch them yet. No charity, she said. Calder met her gaze. An agreement, he replied. A proper job. Fair wages. Your choice to stay or leave when the year ends. She considered his words, weighing them the way she weighed every decision that mattered. There was no pressure in his tone. No expectation. Only clarity. All right, she said finally. I accept. Construction began the following morning. The new cabin rose on higher ground, positioned for light and shelter. As the first beam was set into place, snow drifted down softly from the gray sky. Not heavy. Not harsh. Just enough to mark the moment. It wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Thanks for listening.